Now it's my pleasure to introduce Lara Fountaine, Courtney Hewett, and Maurika Smutherman from North Carolina State University. So Lara is the Community Engagement Librarian at NC State University, where she works hard to engage the community. In her free time, when her 2-year-old is asleep, she spends her time playing lots of Baldur's Gate 3. Courtney is a university library specialist at NC State University that specializes in planning, organizing, and implementing both academic and community-centered events in the library's high-tech spaces. So spaces like the Teaching and Visualization Lab at Hunt Library. When she's not working, she enjoys biking, camping with her partner and their 2 dogs. She also enjoys The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom on her Nintendo Switch. And then Maurika is a graduate extension assistant for the Digital Media Lab in the NCSU libraries. She's also a PhD candidate, round of applause for that, in the Department of Communication, Rhetoric, and Digital Media at NCSU, where her research uses Black feminist lens to examine alternative forms of technology in the lives of Black women and girls. All right, so I will step off and come up at the end, but again, any questions will wait to the end. But thank you guys for attending, and I'm going to turn it over.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we're really excited to be here. Again, as she said, I'm Courtney Hewett. I work at NC State with these awesome people, and we are very privileged to be able to put together Femme Space. So it's a different series of events focused on prioritizing femme-identifying students in those spaces where they otherwise might not see themselves reflected. And you guys want to introduce yourselves again, or are those introductions good? Should we just keep moving?
I'll add to my introduction.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I feel like, and we got to introduce Kelsey.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
I feel like I wrote that. I was trying to be funny.
Yeah.
Because I engage in the community. But what I also, I do a lot of event planning and programs for the libraries and help others in the library coordinate different events and things like that. And I'm Lara Fountaine.
And I guess the only thing I would add is that the Graduate Extension Assistantship is a partnership between the libraries and my program, CRDM. So we also have Kelsey Dufresne, who is not here today, but is here in spirit. And she facilitates and hosts Femme Making Nights. So we are going to talk about that, but we just want to make sure that we introduce her. And she's Dr. Dufresne now as well. So recently successfully defended her dissertation, which was all about, it was a cookbook actually, and it was about caring and community and food, which was really, really interesting.
And then she had a baby like 2 weeks later.
Yes.
So
she's awesome.
Impressive stuff. All right, so just to kind of give you an overview of what Femme Space means when we're talking about it in the context of our event series. So throughout working in the libraries, doing our various different roles, we noticed a huge need to create spaces that were more inclusive of femme identities, particularly in the media studios that we have, the game lab that we had, which is now, quick sidebar, it's now called The Landing, and that space is used for a wider array of activities, and we have the esports and gaming lab at Hunt Library in its place. So we really needed to prioritize more inclusivity in those spaces and let students kind of see themselves reflected in those spaces so that they would feel comfortable coming to use them, because in the past they just did not. That was something we noticed through talking to students. I believe you did some data as well before I came along. And so that's where the idea kind of came about. And it began with Femme Game Nights. So we started out in the game lab before it was converted into the Landing. And we put those on, and now we have those in the esports lab. And this whole idea and concept of creating Femme Spaces it stemmed from a book written by Priya Parker called The Art of Gathering, and Lara's going to go into that a little bit more.
Yeah, so in her book, The Art of Gathering, Priya Parker talks about diversity and how it is a potentiality that needs to be activated, and that generous exclusion is a concept in which the the diverse voices are heightened and the diversity in the room is heightened rather than just a hodgepodge of people. So rather than just having like a, girl game night kind of thing, and then having, and anybody comes and we're just like playing games, we emphasize the femme identities, non-binary identities, and heighten those and put an emphasis on that we're supporting those individuals in this space, and that we are highlighting games that they want, we're curating games that they want to play, and kind of making that the focus of the event, and making it the space intentional so that it is a safe space for them to come, and a safe way for them to connect. And we've also are building a community of femme gamers, who, we'll talk more about that later, but who continue to come to each night and have kind of built friendships out of that and things like that.
Yeah, so I've already talked a little bit about Femme Game Night, but I want to give y'all a little bit more detail on it. So like I said, femme identifying students were not seeing themselves in these spaces. So they would come to the game lab, for example, and they would see a tournament happening or just some casual gameplay happening with, let's say, like FIFA, and it's a bunch of like dude bros hanging out, and they just did not feel very welcomed and included. And it was, through talking with them, we learned they felt highly intimidated by that environment. So they weren't utilizing this really cool resource that we have for them. As you can see, the top picture is the game lab before it was turned into the landing. And the bottom picture is the gaming and esports lab that's new. And so these are awesome spaces that we want everyone to feel comfortable using. And that just wasn't the case. So the other side of that was that some people just didn't know that it existed and that they could walk in and use it and play whatever they wanted to. They thought, this is just for FIFA. I mean, I'm going back to FIFA a lot, but that is the
very
game
popular
that
game
was
in
being
that
played.
space.
Yeah. So the whole idea was have them see themselves reflected in these spaces, feel included, have a sense of ownership over it as well. And also to know how to get there, that it's available, that you can just walk in and use it. I think of like the first time I would go to a restaurant I've never been to. It's like, what's the parking like? Do I need a reservation? How do I get there? It's anxiety. So our whole idea with Femme Game Night was to kind of reduce that anxiety and that barrier and have them feel good about using it. And then I did want to mention that we have seen a lot more of these students coming back both to our events and on their own, and in a casual gaming sense, and also having their own events. So that's been a really big positive for us.
So
Tell them what we do.
Some of the major activities of Femme Game Night: pizza and drinks, very important. It's how we get the people in, and then we let the attendees curate the games. So we've purchased a bunch of different games based on demand and people asking for them. But some of the more popular ones that we have seen are Smash Bros, Just Dance, Mario Kart, Mario Party, Jackbox Party games, Stardew Valley, and then Valorant and Lethal Company more recently. And what's also really cool about this variety of games is that it accommodates a variety of skill levels. So we make it very clear that even if you're not a gamer, if you're completely new, this is a place for you to come and try it out or hang out with people who are interested in gaming. So like the Jackbox Party games can be played from your mobile device, and they're very quick and easy. So it doesn't have to necessarily be you don't have to be somebody who's like really into Zelda or like really plays the Switch or PC games or whatnot. So that's something that's been really nice about it.
Yeah, and this is probably the coolest part about what we do, is we have these student assistants. So this is Marie here, and this is Jaden. And they are student assistants that we hired to help us out with putting these events on. And they're responsible for creating all of the marketing materials. They're both really skilled designers. So they've created our logo, our flyers that get posted around campus and on e-boards and the website. They manage a Discord server so that we have a QR code at each event, and attendees can check into that, and then they're kept in the loop. And so they manage all of that for the most part. We hop on every now and then, but they're really good about that. But their most important role is hostess. So like Lara said, we try to accommodate all skill levels when it comes to the games we play. So when someone comes in and they look a little bit lost, or they say, I don't know how to play anything, can I just like watch y'all play, or, express a need for some assistance? The two of them will just jump in and teach them how to play from the ground up, very basic stuff and up. They, are excellent at hosting, and one of them, Jaden, just graduated, and there's like a huge hole right now because, she did a great job. So what they have done is kind of taken our event and created a community aspect to it. And we've just seen a lot of friendships kind of blossom, a lot of repeat attendees coming. It's become this hub that I don't think either of us were really anticipating to happen. And it's been a huge positive, I think, for wellness even, with some of these students who are maybe feeling a little bit isolated and like they didn't have a community. So the two of them are incredible. And we actually, as a group, I promised them that I would mention this. We won the Equity for Women Award. When was this? Like a month?
February, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's a picture of us accepting the award. And that's a huge credit to both of them for that. They're both incredible. Okay.
So seeking support for this type of event was, it wasn't easy. But something that was super helpful was so at our libraries at NC State, we have an internal grant process called the Good Ideas Grant. And that is used, anybody in the library can put in a proposal for a Good Ideas Grant. There's a committee that will review proposals, and it can be upwards to $20,000 you can ask for. We're very lucky that we have this process, and it's a great way for us to kind of pilot new ideas or projects. And it's also a way for us to get administrative support. And so it's kind of like also a message that we're, sending to our administration saying like, this is a need we see, this is something that we want to do. And then, that sort of thing. So as Courtney mentioned earlier, I had done some user research of our gaming spaces, and there was some previous user research done by one of our libraries fellows. And these were observational studies of the use of our gaming spaces, which led us to the conclusion. It was obvious, but this officially led us to the conclusion that these spaces are extremely male-dominated. And the certain types of games that were being played are of a very specific genre. And so we used that in our proposal. And then we also aligned it with our library strategic plan about wellness and EDI and inclusivity and those sorts of things. And then provided clear objectives of what we were trying to accomplish and how we were going to do it and things like that. And then we also sought external partners within the campus communities. So we partner with the Pride Center and the Women's Center. They help us market these events. And then we just recently did a mini Femme Game Night at the Women's Center during finals week. They asked us if we could host an event there. So we brought over some of our equipment. And Jaden and Marie were the ones who led that and hosted that over in the Women's Center. There's some challenges, obviously, to this series. The first challenge is the idea of generous exclusion. We want to make sure that our space is functioning as intended, that it's a safe space and that it is being built for and is being made for femme or non-binary identified students. But we also need to do that while staying within university policy. We can't exclude anyone from attending our events. So that has been, kind of tricky to manage. And the ways that we do that is, through the games we curate and things like that. We reserve the entire space. So we reserve the gaming and esports lab before we would be reserving the game lab. And we close off reservations for, just anybody, and we're reserving it for that event. So the space is cleared out completely. And then with our curating the games that we play, we focus on games that the attendees want to play that are requested in the Discord and things like that. The next challenge is pushback. So sometimes we receive pushback from folks who are coming in to use the lab, and they come in and they wonder, hey, what's going on? And we tell them, hey, the lab is reserved for an event. The event is Femme Game Night. We explain to them the purpose of the event. We tell them that it's not open for just general play. These are the games that we're playing. You are welcome to join us. Anybody is welcome to come. And we have allies who come and enjoy the games with all the attendees and things like that. And then with that too, we also have community guidelines for the event. So that also helps us keep the space safe. So if there are folks in there who are not following the community guidelines, we have a way to, ask them to leave. That has never happened, but we have that in there just in case. And then Maurika can talk about sustainability.
Yes. So I don't think that sustainability is quite an issue for Femme Game Night, but for Femme Making and Femme Beat-Making, Kelsey and I are students, and our program is typically 4 years. So Kelsey is graduated and she's moving on. There will be a new graduate extension assistant coming into the space. And that kind of leaves Femme Making Nights up in the air as far as who's going to continue it, how will this be sustained. I think that Femme Making definitely has some student buy-in from the students who work in the Makerspace. So students have led I think a lot of the Femme Making Nights. For Femme Beat-Making, it's not quite the same. Tim Menza is my colleague in the Digital Media Lab who assists me with hosting Femme Beat-Making, but it's really us who come in and host those, and we don't have undergraduate students who are working with us to do that. So hopefully with my last year, I'm able to kind of build that up, and so we can sustain the programming, but there is still that question of how will it continue past the time that we're physically in the spaces. So that is the challenge of sustainability. If anyone has suggestions when we do the Q&A, we'd love to hear what you have to say. All right, so on Kelsey's behalf, I'm going to talk about Femme Making Nights in the Makerspace. And here you will see Marie again, because Marie is amazing and works in all of the spaces in our high-tech studios. So Marie is here helping a student in this photo, but Femme Making Nights, the purpose, it was inspired by Femme Game Nights, of course, but the Makerspace has a lot of high-tech tools that are typically used by engineering students. So that space ends up being male-dominated, similar to the gaming lab and the esports lab. But Femme Making Nights are intentionally making space for femme-identifying folks, non-binary folks to get in the door into a traditionally masculine or male-dominated space so that they can use the tools that are in there. So this is accomplished through student-led workshops and activities. They actually highlight a lot of activities that are historically feminized and discredited, so working with textiles, doing things with like embroidery, different activities like that are historically kind of like tied to domesticity and women. And then also having frequent and regular sessions to build community and to reinforce prioritization of equity. So that's kind of what Femme Making Nights are all about. Some of the activities more specifically have included shrinky dinks, jewelry making, origami, knitting, crocheting, and looming, hand embroidery, personalized stamp making, laser cut charms for jewelry, collage, paper crafts, and a lot more. Kelsey does so much in the Makerspace. There's no way I could list all of the activities that she does. And in addition to this, she hosts other pop-up workshops and instructional events, so much more. But this is just kind of like a snapshot of what Femme Making Nights have included. I think that it's been highly successful. I believe that it's well attended and that attendance is pretty regular for returning folks in the Makerspace. So it's a great program, and hopefully it continues with the next graduate assistant who comes into the Makerspace. All right, so now I'll talk about Femme Beat-Making Nights in the Digital Media Lab, so also inspired by Femme Game Nights. And in this photo, you will see Heather Robinson, Aliana Kendall Brooks, and then Layla Ghanim, who were the first people who attended our Femme Beat-Making Night. So Femme Beat-Making Nights similarly are meant to prioritize femme-identifying folks, non-binary folks, and their allies in the Digital Media Lab, which is also male-dominated. We offer these nights twice a month. as an opportunity for people to engage with the audio production tools. So like making music is probably one of the most popular activities that people come into the Digital Media Lab for. And we also provide space for participants to explore music created by artists who identify as femme. So we accomplish this through reserving our audio booths in advance for participants. That way we're making sure that the space is not occupied by anyone else at that time. Also, we collaborate on a shared playlist that amplifies the music of femme-identifying artists and their allies. We provide snacks and water. We set up activity stations for participants to play with instruments, DJ controllers, and other audio production tools. And then these scheduled sessions are regular, and we have activities that center femme-identifying folks, which I'll get into more specifics on the next slide. Thank you. So some of the activities that we've done have included DJ workshops. Alex Valencia is a librarian who came in and he works as a professional DJ, so he hosted a DJ workshop for us. We've also had vinyl listening sessions because we have turntables and vinyl records in the space. We took a field trip to an NC State live concert. So NC State, they have their own like concert series, and we were able to procure free tickets for Femme Beat-Making Night participants to come and see Fatoumata Diawara perform, which was really great. We provide guitars, MIDI keyboards, synthesizers. We use digital audio workstations like GarageBand and Logic Pro. We have the collaborative playlist, which I have a QR code for y'all in a second. So get your phones ready if you want to scan that. And then in February, I actually was able to host a Black History Month exhibition where we went into the teaching and visualization lab. There was a videorama featuring Black women and girls making beats. And then we had the same station set up for participants to engage with, as well as a playlist. So if you scan this QR code, you'll be taken to our Femme Beat-Making Night playlist on Spotify, and it's ongoing. People contribute to it as they want to, and it's just a playlist for all of us to share what we're listening to and to hopefully enjoy. So yeah, those are Femme Beat-Making Nights.
Cool. So, in conclusion, I kind of wanted to touch on what we see as the future for this series. Femme Game Night is going to continue, and we've had a lot of really good attendance. I think our highest number so far is 60. I looked to Lara; she remembers stuff better than me. And so we have more seats now in the esports lab, so we want to keep that up and keep it growing. So what we're hoping to do is add a GA to the staff, and so we can have more game nights and host them in other areas on campus, and then eventually expand into inclusive game nights in other senses, besides just thinking of femme groups, thinking of neurodivergent groups, non-binary, things like that. We're also very open to feedback on that if anybody has ideas. And then thinking about the future of femme making and femme beat making, as Maurika was talking about, there is a challenge there of sustainability with the way that we staff that. But the good news is femme beat making is going to be okay for at least another year. Yeah. I'm so happy because I'm kind of attached at this point. So that's kind of where our heads are with that at the moment. But yeah, and I think all that we have left is
that's our contact information, and then we can take questions,
comments, anything.
Yeah.
A question about the making nights. Do you have a sense of which ones would work best for libraries that don't have a high-tech makerspace? Which activities seem like the lowest barriers to entry?
Just I guess thinking off the top of my head, I would say that working with textiles would probably be easily accessible. I would also recommend working with Shrinky Dinks because Kelsey and we work on another project where we've done Shrinky Dink workshops before, and you can order the Shrinky Dinks on Amazon. I know that costs money, but if you have, some money, then you could order the Shrinky Dink plastic, and hopefully your library would have colored pencils and permanent markers and scissors and things. And then I think the only other thing you may need is a heat gun or an oven. So some sort of heating device. You might even be able to get away with a blow dryer might work.
I think they also have what's the UV light one? Or
I haven't seen that before. But I think an easy bake oven, if those still exist, those could work. But I would also add too that the collage would probably be good because I mean recycling, if you have materials that are maybe like in the archive department or something, that would be pretty
That's a great idea.
easy to get that stuff together.
I also want to plug real quick a session that's happening right after this session by our colleagues about their program, and they're going to talk about their series called Crafting Resilience, where they do a lot of these crafts and other crafts outside of the Makerspace. So there'll be a lot of ideas there of things that you could do.
I wanted to ask, because now you remember nothing, about how the process went for you guys to come up with this and to like have it be allowed. Only because I go to UNCG for library science, and we have a gaming lab, but it's like you said, and it'd be nice. I like games.
Well, the way that I started this was I just did it. But I had a lot of support, and we, like Lara said, we don't exclude anybody. We curate an environment that is very femme leaning. So it's like if you're walking by and you're someone who really likes to play Mario Party with your gal pals or whatever, and you see that happening, and people that you identify with are in there, you're gonna feel more into it. But I don't think we did anything that was too aggressive or that wouldn't be allowed.
I mean,
Yeah.
That's kind of my strategy for a lot of things.
Yeah,
I just
it is.
kind of sneak in and try it. The game lab, is it library specific or is it their like esports area?
It's the esports.
Yeah.
I
So,
wanted to see it once.
And that's even more challenging, we've noticed, because we just started doing Femme Game Nights in the esports lab. We've just had one semester of it so far, and it is a slower, how am I trying to say this? Like, we don't see as many Femme students using the esports lab after our Femme Game Nights as we did when we were just in the game lab. It's kind of a slower uptake.
slower burn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is happening.
Yeah.
It's just not as much of a rush.
Yeah. And we also the esports, we hired an esports program director. Granted, he's on library staff, but he's also very supportive of increasing use of the space by like women or femme identifying individuals. So we work with him and he helps us reserve the space and is open to our programming. So I think it might be worth reaching out to whoever's in charge of the esports lab and seeing if they want to do kind of like you could do like a cozy game theme, like something that like.
We did that a lot in the beginning. It was
Yeah.
cozy game, and that seemed to work. pretty good.
Yeah.
So y'all have a gaming lab that y'all did this in, and not the esports. So the library there's also like doing a remodel, and they were asking about a space, and I suggested gaming lab. And they were like, well, we have the esports arena. And I had trouble trying to explain them the difference between the two.
So the game lab does not technically exist anymore. It's now called the Landing, and it's used you can use it for gaming, but it's not primarily gaming anymore. It's wellness, study space, things like that. And so now all of our gaming requests and inquiries are being pushed up to the esports lab. Yeah, so it's kind of similar.
We do have a game space at Hill, though.
Oh, that's right.
And then I think the biggest thing you can use for your argument is, I don't know what access is like to the esports lab in Greensboro, but if the access is that it's really reserved for esports teams, or it's hard to get in, it's not there for casual play, it's more geared towards competitive play. There's an argument to be made that, a space in the library is accessible to everyone, regardless of what program they're in, regardless of what they're, if they're on the esports team or not. And it would be geared more towards casual play instead of competitive play. There's a larger variety of games you can include, depending on what the esports area has, and that sort of thing. And it promotes wellness and stress relief, and takes away kind of like the pressures of being in a library and being in that kind of seeing everyone studying and thinking I gotta be working hard. Like, maybe you just need a break and you want to go play some Mario Kart.
Yeah.
I love that. I wrote down the casual versus competitive.
Yeah, that's
definitely
huge.
They're always talking about like the tournaments
Yep.
and all that, how they need it.
Yep.
So that one, and then I know that they're always using the word like patron centric,
Yeah.
and so I like the idea that it's for more than just people that are studying like gaming or things like that.
Yeah.
It's for everyone.
Yeah.
That one's big.
Yep.
Thank
And
you
it can
so
build community.
much. Yes. Thank you so much.
Casual gaming does build community. That's something we've
Yeah.
noticed.
I have a quick question. How long would you say your students spend on this per week? Like, how much time do they spend per week? And then, like, what's the schedule like for each program? I think I saw one was like bi-weekly. So what's the schedule like? And then how long, or how much do your students spend on it?
Yeah. So we didn't talk about that at all,
No.
did we? So our students, Jaden and Marie, they work in different areas of the library, not just with us. So I'm not sure exactly what their total hours are for everything, but for us, what would you say? Like, it would depend on the game and on where we are on the calendar. But
Yeah.
maybe 7 hours a week.
Yeah, 7 to 10
It's not very
hours a
many.
week.
But they supplement that with, like I said, their other positions. And for Femme Game Night, we have them on the last Friday of every month during the semester. And it's from 5 to 9, so it's 4 hours
Yeah. And it's busy like
the whole time.
the whole time. Most people stay the whole time.
Yes,
But
including
we-
us.
Yes. Which is why it would be nice to have a graduate assistant to help
we
us.
love it. Don't get us wrong.
No, it is the most fun
We get a
probably
little-
library
little-
job
yeah.
I could ever do, but
A little
yeah.
sleepy though. We get
Yeah.
a little weird.
We get a little delirious towards the end.
A lot of soda.
Yeah. That's the only time I drink soda.
And Femme Making Night, I don't want to say the wrong thing for that. Oh, bi-weekly.
Bi-weekly,
Yeah, so it's bi-weekly, but to my knowledge, the students actually lead a lot of those sessions. I think Kelsey may have led a few in the beginning, and then the students kind of like just stepped in and wanted to lead those sessions. Again, those are some of the same students who are helping with the Femme Game Night. So I think they just really love being in like the
library.
high tech spaces in the library.
They love our library.
I'm not sure how many hours that would be for Femme Making Nights, but for Femme Beat-Making Nights, we have done them twice a month. It is a lot because it's just Tim and I doing it, and I commute to Raleigh. My commute is maybe like almost 2 hours. So it's kind of difficult sometimes because we do them from like 5:30 to the time that the digital media lab closes, which is 8 o'clock. So the space is always open until 8 either way. But yeah, we just have to be there for those times. So we try to switch it off sometimes. Maybe like I'll do one and then Tim will do one. We have 2 libraries that we're doing these at. So we really tried with like Hunt Library, but we didn't get a lot of participation because it's on the engineering campus, which is a little bit more difficult to get to. And it's just not like most of the students are on the main campus. So we see a lot more participation at Hill Library, which is on the main campus. But yeah, so that's kind of how ours have been. And I would say we do spend a lot of time on it. Like I do the graphic design for our flyers and marketing and promotion, which could probably be better. But again, like I'm a student. Tim has a full-time job, you know, so we're trying, but we have support from the managers. Tim is one of the managers, and so is Kyle, and then Jason Evans Growth, who manages the space. So they support us, and they've helped to build like carts so that we don't have to do too much setting up. But yeah, that's how we do that.
So we've heard from a lot of our high school students that they want a recording space in the library. We have the capability to be able to do it. Funding-wise is a little iffy, but how large is your space?
I think the Digital Media Lab, it's a pretty decent size. It's its own like room, and we have 4 audio booths, and then we have a studio where people can record like with a camera, or if they wanted to do a group project. The audio booths fit 2 people comfortably. So
We've looked at a few, so I wondered
Yeah, I would definitely invite you to come and see the space. It's a little bit different at Hunt Library because it's not in a room. It's kind of like in the open a little bit, but we still have like the same amount of audio booths, and then we have multiple studios at Hunt Library. I don't think they get used as much because, again, Centennial campus is not the main campus, but yeah, the Digital Media Lab is a decent sized space. It's pretty busy throughout the week, especially when finals come around and everyone has to do like a final video essay. But it's open in the front, so we have a lot of like Mac computers, and then we have PCs and tablets available for students. So really anything they need to do media making wise is available in the Media Lab. Yeah.
But yeah, come visit us.
Yeah.
Please.
I'm literally the person who coordinates visits. So you can email me directly and we can work something out. Yeah.
Took a picture.
Good.
Just like that.